And the melodic strings of Unforgettable by Mr. Nat King Cole introduce us to Viewpoint. Good morning. We have with us this morning the co-host and junior partner, senior in stature, Mrs. Busby. Good morning.
You know, flattery will just get you everywhere, I swear.
And we're going to get together right quickly here with Dustin Fulton and talk about Together for Lincoln. Kudos first. You Presbys.
Yes.
You don't mind if we give the Presbyterians a little blow this morning?
Of course not. They deserve it. They have a great event going on.
They've got a great event going on tonight. And Judith K., why don't you tell about that just a little bit? Let's blow a little kudos smoke the Presbyterian way.
Yeah, please and thank you. It's at the corner of Pekin and Ottawa Street, and from 5 until 7:30, we are going to be serving the world's most tasty barbecue sandwiches, etc., etc., etc.
Home-baked pies.
Please come, and all the money that is raised from that is for things locally, all the local charities. And in this day and age, and Dustin, I'm sure you can swear to this more than most, there are a lot of people who need just a little extra help. Things are tough for a lot of folks.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Did I hear you guys have got like a drive-through going on this year too?
Oh, yeah.
Something new?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's like a drive-up window. Only you have to walk in after you've driven up. But then you can have takeouts. But it's really tasty. You really should come and bring Kristen and bring Tyler. Although Tyler probably doesn't eat a lot of meat yet, right?
Fulton.
Tyler Moulton Fulton.
Yeah. Good-looking little guy because he had good-looking parents. That's all I can say about that. One more kudo this morning. As you know, we have a longtime dear friend of Jean and mine that lives up in La Crosse, Wisconsin.
Yep.
And she watches us religiously, James, and reports. And sometimes I get a critical report, sometimes a good report.
That's life.
Coming this Sunday, the 24th, would be Lois Harvey's birthday. I'm not going to announce the number on the air because that would be unkind for me to do that. Delightful lady. Happy birthday, Lois. We're glad to welcome you aboard. Oh, and speaking of the Northland, have you seen the picture of the eagle standing on the headstone at the Minneapolis National Cemetery that's going around on the internet now?
I don't think I have.
Well, it's quite neat. It shows this great big huge one. Somebody was really sharp to see this and get a picture of it. And of course the story behind it is the eagle standing guard over all of these graves of the veterans. And it's kind of a neat story. The Minneapolis Star-Tribune featured it and so forth. Really an interesting sight, and I really enjoyed looking at that. And in that same quote, I saw a quote that has to do with the animals, and it said, until one has loved an animal, part of his soul remains unawakened.
Do you have a dog?
No, we don't.
Maybe you should get one.
Well, we've got farms on both sides of the family, and so our theory is let them keep the pets and we can come visit them anytime.
Oh, well, there's a thought. There's a thought. You know, you mentioned a cemetery. Did you people hear about that cemetery in Houston, Texas? In fact, I think that's where my Aunt Catherine is buried. And the manager or president or whatever you call the head of a cemetery said that there will be no mentioning of God or Christ or any of those kinds of words in that cemetery.
Hello?
Hello.
Now, what is wrong with this? You know, this political correctness thing. I was listening to Orion Samuelson Saturday morning, another station, Jim, but it was the farm show last Saturday morning on WGN, and he commented, and this is a ridiculous thing, he commented that some of the county fairs will do away with the cattle shows and the rabbit shows, etc., and not award grand champions or reserve champions or anything like, because one of the winners or one of the losers might be offended. Well, hello? I mean, seriously. And then in the same breath, he commented that some school boards, I cannot begin to imagine this in my wildest imagination, some school boards have succumbed to this stupid political correctness by not awarding valedictorian, salutatorian awards at graduation time because somebody might get offended. What in the world is wrong with this country?
You know, if you were to be offended every time you weren't number one,
Boy, would I be in trouble.
the whole world would run around with droopy eyes and their head hanging low. How many times have you won what you got into? Not so many.
I get that all the time on the golf
I say I'm a Cup fan, and I'm not offended when somebody else wins the World Series.
Well, then you have a long background of learning to be gracious, don't you?
Can you imagine how offended I'd be at this point? I'm only 33, but you know, some of the people have been Cub fans for 60, 70, 80 years. Man, they'd be pretty bitter by now, wouldn't they?
By now, you could have 70 years worth of offense.
That's right.
Just waiting
That's right.
The last great moment for me was 1945, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And speaking of such matters of doing away with political correctness and so forth, I uncovered a little business on the internet, a 90-year-old writer for the Cleveland Plain Dealer, wherein he gives us 45 lessons of credos for lessons for life. And Judy's going to take these. We're not all 45 of them today. Share 5 of them with us, will you, Judith Kay?
Yeah. She Regina Brett is her name, and she's 90. And she says to celebrate growing older, she once wrote 45 lessons life taught me. It's the most requested column I've ever written. The first one was, life isn't, here, this will fit right, dovetail right with what you said. Life isn't fair, but it's still good. When in doubt, just take the next small step. Life is too short to waste time hating anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Your job won't take care of you when you're sick. Your friends and parents will. Stay in touch. Pay off your credit cards every month. You know, on this hating, I read once that to hate is like no, I can't remember the punchline. It'll come to me.
Call me when you call me, but not after 12 o'clock. Yeah.
It's like taking poison and hoping the other guy dies.
Oh, all right. That's well said.
There you go.
Well, it has to do with frowns and smiles. How many muscles do you use when you frown? How many do you use when you smile?
Yeah.
Well, let's get right into talking about Together for Lincoln. Go ahead and introduce Dustin Fulton. Will you please, Judith?
Yes, Dustin Fulton. Now, he is the minister at the Jefferson Street Christian Church. Now, do you call yourselves reverend or pastor or...
I generally go by Dustin.
Dustin is a nice name.
Yep.
We'll use that. You know, when I thought about your coming on today, and I thought about how Together for Lincoln has grown, and how pleased you must be to see that, since it was
his baby.
Well, not necessarily. I think it really came together as a result of a lot of people. I'm the guy that goes out and talks about it. So there's a lot of people behind the scenes that really do the hard work. I'm kind of I can't keep my mouth shut, so I go out and talk about it.
You're a good preacher.
Yeah, exactly.
You're in the right line of work. Yeah, I thought about my grandma one time when she was really kind of older. Considerably. It was Christmas Eve, and they'd had 3 children, and everybody was together with their children, and she looked down the table, and she looked at my Grandpa Tom, and she said, "Yeah, Pa, now look what we started." And I bet you look at Together for Lincoln and think, "Yeah, Pa, look what we started."
Yeah, it is a lot of fun looking and seeing just over this is our 4th year coming up, and seeing how we have some of the original faces with us that have really helped to get it started and hold it together. And then we've had some transition, as it is in ministry and in life, where some people moved out of the community, and so we have some new faces that have hopped on board as well. And so it's been very promising just to see new interest in. I think once people have a service opportunity, they really want to jump on board and help to make sure that this continues and grows on into the future.
Well, let's define Together for Lincoln.
Okay.
Start with the genesis of how that began, and what at the end of the day, and it's a long day, and some jobs don't get done. They have to go back and finish them up at a later time. But tell us expressly what is Together for Lincoln, Dustin.
Okay, well, Together for Lincoln, at one of our earliest meetings, we came up with the slogan, "Coming Together for the Common Good." And the idea is that I think unity amongst churches is something that Jesus prayed for the night before he died in John 17. Is something that he desires. And I think oftentimes we identify ourselves by our differences as opposed to what we have in common. And what we said is, rather than getting together and having a discussion about baptism or getting together and discussing what we believe happens at the Lord's Supper, as if any of us could really figure that out anyway with human words, let's get together and celebrate what we have in common and use that as our common ground. Father Jim Cravens, who used to be over at the Episcopal Church, I was talking to him one day, and I said, really what we're coming down to is we're going to try to find our least common denominator. And he said, no, we're going to find our greatest common factor. And I said, yeah, you're right. And so we've said, we are Christians who are leading the way. Not everybody has to be a Christian to participate. We want to invite everybody to come, but we as the churches are going to lead the way in helping make Lincoln a better place and helping to meet the needs of the common good here.
Now we have folks that ask for how would one, let's say we have an elderly widow who really needs some help around her house.
Okay.
Doesn't have a place to go to get it. Is kind of just bewitched about what do I do here. How does that person let Together for Lincoln know, and how do they get on a qualified list to have things done?
Okay, there are several different places where you can get an application, but we want you to get an application and fill that out to have a service project completed in your home, or as well in like your not-for-profit organization. We do help out a lot of not-for-profit organizations around the community as well. So funding for those type of ministries and those type of services, thank you, have really fallen pretty hard with the economy. And so we want to be willing to help those out. So they can pick up a form for that. Several different places. One is online, togetherforlincoln.com. You can download a form there. You can go to any of the State Bank of Lincoln branches, have them. Action Rental up on the square, they have them as well as the Oasis Senior Center. And I'm probably forgetting a few in there, but I know that those are major places that all have the forms.
Well, surely the Oasis is a great place to have those, because sometimes when you get older and find yourself alone, you're just not quite up for a little plumbing job, Right.
Yeah. In more ways than one, probably. So I think that's something that we really want to recognize. And one of the things that we really want to stress as well is, I know a lot of the seniors, a lot of that generation are so strong and so independent, and often feel bad about taking help from other people. And I can understand that. I think that's in some ways can be a beautiful thing, that they're strong and they want to work hard, but at the same time recognizing that, hey, we want to be here for help. We need to help each other, and it would be our honor to serve you. It would be a blessing to us to be able to serve you as well.
Bill and I are a little older than you are, Dustin. And
I'd say Bill's older than you are by a day or two anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And so our friends, of course, are our age. And every once in a while, one of my friends, and many of them have found themselves living alone, will say about, well, I've got to do this and somebody wants to help me, and I just feel so bad about that. And I tell them, for them to help you kind of helps them too. They wouldn't offer if they didn't want to help you. And when we do reach out just a little bit and help somebody, I think sometimes we feel better than the person we've helped.
Right, and that's a common thing. A lot of times churches have focused more on spiritual growth and have kept that away from, using your hands, and I think that's a broken model. I think what we see more and more is that if you're going to grow spiritually, you have to use your hands in service as well. We see Jesus as the greatest servant who bowed down and washed his disciples' feet. Even Judas Iscariot, when he knew he was going to betray him and everything else. And so we see that's such an important model. Helps us get over some of that bitterness a lot of times. Not only loving your enemies but serving your enemies and saying, hey, we're going to help you out. So.
The scope of not yours, but of all the volunteer activities would include such mundane things as yard work that needs to be done, but the person can't do it, to painting. Interior as well as exterior.
There's
roof
a little bit of
repairs.
We don't do a lot of roofing. Roofing is one thing we've tried to steer away from.
That's a good thing. Yeah.
But other than that, it's pretty open. In fact, this year we may complete our 50th wheelchair ramp.
Is that right?
It's our 4th year, and we have a crew that also goes out throughout the year and helps build wheelchair ramp, because that's one of the funding things that's dried up, and it's just really tough to find somebody. Sometimes people can afford the material for the ramp, but they can't afford the labor, or maybe they can't afford either. And we say, hey, if somebody is homebound in a wheelchair or a walker or whatever else and needs a ramp, that's something that's just, to me, it's a basic human need that they ought to have. And so Norm Newhouse has led that crew up. And so we're going to be approaching our 50th. I don't know if we'll hit 50 this year or not. I think the exact number right now is about 44 different ramps that they've completed, and just a wonderful project.
What a service!
I helped work on one last Together for Lincoln on a Sunday, and it was just amazing. And we had 20 people out there working on it, and it was amazing how quick it came together and how nice it was at the end of the day, and and how blessed the couple was that received it as well, to give them increased mobility.
And how much fun, really, you have every time you get together with a whole bunch of people and work on a project. Bill talked about our barbecue tonight.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, and it was a sweaty job for the people who were putting up the tent in the parking lot, believe me. But you always have fun, and you always have to laugh, because funny things happen. It's a good time to get together. And Bill and I both are active in our churches, and I think that's like you said, not enough. Just going on Sunday isn't going to do it if you don't carry it home with you and carry it outside of the church.
Yeah, we introduced a theme a couple of years ago that we've kind of reintroduced for this year, called From a Day to a Way, called from a day of service to a way of life for us. And our goal of It Together for Lincoln is not that we can cure all of Lincoln's problems with one service day, obviously.
No.
But that we can use this as a transformative event, not only for those who are receiving the service, but also for those who are serving. And so by serving, that really gets them plugged in, and hopefully what will help people to do is, rather than just assigning projects, all through the year, we assign them on Together for Lincoln Sunday, is that they start to see needs around them, and they go and help address those needs, whether it be for a single mom or for some elderly folks that live on their block, or whatever it may be. And so we really want to help people to have the eyes of Christ, that see the people who are in need and reach out and to minister to them.
One of the things I wanted to mention really rather strongly is that it's not just adults involved in this. I've worked with youngsters on the crews that I've been assigned to. They're active, and mother and dad are there working with them. That's a pretty nice thing. Right.
We try to keep, a 12-year-olds, away from circular saws for the most part and things like
Good
that.
Plan.
But yeah, it is a beautiful thing. In fact, we've acknowledged that in our volunteer forms and everything else, is trying to keep families together. And families in this day and age tend to drop their kids off at so many different things. And the one time they have used to be, you had your conversations, family conversations around the dinner table. Now it's in the minivan, as you drive from one place to the next. And so to have families serving together, I think, is a beautiful opportunity, and something that we ought to try to increase as much as we can in our communities.
Yeah, I suspect that the families around the dinner table becoming a rather unusual event today in these times, and that's a sad thing to acknowledge, but I suspect that that's probably fairly true across the board. One of the things that I have noted is that not all, and this is not to be a criticism, please, out there, folks, don't misunderstand me. You don't have all of the different faith denominations on board on this. It'd be nice to have everybody to spread the base out a little bit more. If we could have a little broader participation. 648-5510, in case anybody has any comments or questions about Together for Lincoln. Our guest this morning is Dustin Fulton, pastor of Jefferson Street Christian Church, doing a great job out there, by the by. I know some of your parishioners very well.
Well, we've got a good start. We've got a good crew to work with, and it's a real blessing to serve there.
Now, you've told us where you can get an application, but is there like a cutoff date, Dustin, in that you already have decided that these people are going to build so many ramps and those people are going to side the house?
Yeah, our cutoff date, our deadline right now is August 15th. Now, we will accept applications going on for both volunteers and for service projects, but it's really best to help us coordinate if you can get your stuff in, especially for the projects, by August 15th. As far as volunteers go, we still keep that August 15th cutoff, but obviously we accept even till the day of. But it would be helpful to get you on good projects and to help match up your skill set with what we need to get your application in by that August 15th date. I mean, if you sign up the day of, we're still going to get you plugged in somewhere, but it might be out waxing Bill's car for him or something like that, you know. So we just really, it would be very helpful to know ahead of time, so that we have a lot of people who work behind the scenes and spend just hours poring over this, trying to figure out which people to place where, and so it would be very valuable. And you can download, and actually this year, all the places I mentioned before where you can get your forms at, you can get those same volunteer forms there, State Bank of Lincoln locations, Action Rental, Oasis, and our website. Actually, this year you can volunteer online. You can sign up online, so you don't have to worry about the paperwork and turning it in, and everything can be done right there, and just click the button and you're done. And
I would suspect, Dustin, that there are some folks out there in the Etherland that would be motivated to help, but physically aren't able.
Yes.
So therefore, if they are motivated to help and not physically able, they could help, because these supplies and so forth cost money, and they could make a monetary contribution to Together for Lincoln, and that would where would that go, sir? Yeah,
they could actually take it to any of the State Bank of Lincoln branches, and our accounts are through there, and so they could go ahead and do that, and that'd be great. Also, if you're physically able to still get around a little bit, one of the things that we do is we do try to visit every resident in the nursing home on Together for Lincoln Sunday. And so, some of the folks that maybe, don't feel comfortable swinging a hammer anymore or something like that, or even, cleaning up the yard, if they'd be willing to go around and to visit some of the folks there, there's a place on the application to sign up for that as well, and a great way to go and visit a lot of people who are pretty lonely in some of our nursing homes.
That's a ministry that certainly should not be overlooked.
Absolutely.
By any stretch of the imagination. There are a lot of folks out there who would really appreciate somebody putting their head in the door and saying, hello, how are you, and just wanted you to know we're thinking about you today.
Yes, absolutely. 15 minutes there means a world, and so that's something that has been meaningful. I think we started doing that. I can't remember if we did that our first year or our second year we did that. But just has really resonated. We've got some very warm stories from that where people felt very encouraged, and even some ongoing relationships where people met somebody that day and said, we need to take our kids back and visit them. The way they lit up when our kids walked in the room, that was worth it, for us to come back and build a relationship.
And that's something that people can remember, too. If you take your children, the people in the nursing home just love that. They used to have kids and nieces and nephews, and they love to see children. Really like it. Of course, you have to tell the kids they have to make nice. They can't be swinging from the light fixtures.
That's an example too for children. It's a really great example. Showing compassion for others. Dustin, during the course of these 4 years now, is there any one particular episode or incident that comes to mind that was a little out of the ordinary or unusual?
Well, there's all kinds of different stories of how people, had to scramble in order to get something done. Of crews finishing early and so going together to finish up another crew's house.
Yes.
That needed a lot of help or something like that. But so maybe one of the most telling episodes came in the worship service that we have. We have a worship service at the end of the day. So Sunday, September 25th is the date this year. The service projects go on all day, but at 7 o'clock we have a worship service out at Lincoln Christian University's chapel. And in that first year, we called up Pastor Robert Long, who is a pastor here in town. Used to be the United Pentecostal Church. Now they have a new name, and I'm blanking out on the name right now. Forgive me for that. But Robert Long, if you've ever met him before, he's about 6'7", 6'8". He's a tall drink of water. One of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. Hard worker. But he had 6 months to live because of his cancer, and so they called him up on stage up there, and all the pastors prayed for him, or all the people prayed for him, but the pastors laid hands on him that were up there. It would be a little difficult to get 1,000 people laying hands on him at the same time.
They do it on TV.
Yeah, they do, don't they? But yeah, we prayed for him, and he continued to have a bout with cancer, but eventually he was healed. Kind of one of those unexplainable things. The doctors kind of scratched their heads and said, well, hey, this is great. This is a great symbol of what happens when we come together, and the symbol of all of us coming together, caring about this one man. He's a brother in Christ, and at the same time, leading a church and a servant in the community. And so right now he's got a clean bill of health. And that's been almost 4 years ago. And he's become very active in Together for Lincoln now, and has been out helping promote it with his youth group and a lot of different things. And so, just a great. And to me, that was almost the capstone thing. Last year, he shared at Together for Lincoln about how God had worked in his life, and that was really touching for a lot of us to see how God answered those prayers. Why God answers some prayers in that way and He doesn't answer others in that way, I can't explain.
He answers them all, though. It's just that sometimes it's not the answer you want, so you think He didn't answer you. Well, He really doesn't take orders from
Hey, you're
us.
pretty profound this morning. What do you think of that?
and ultimately, as Christians, it all comes back to the resurrection as well for us, that we believe that Christ will return, and we don't know how or when that's going to happen, but that when He returns, we will experience resurrection as well. And so ultimately God will answer those prayers, and sometimes we see some of those effects now, and sometimes we have to wait until He returns to see them.
Now, just to Bill, a month or so ago, 6 weeks ago, they did think that he was coming. They had it all declared and everything. Was that your reaction when they made that declaration? Was that ha ha ha?
Yeah, it was just kind of roll your eyes and keep going on. It's a shame because there are so many people that are out. Christ instructed us, that He wants to find us busy when He returns. Not just speculating about when He's going to return, because we don't know. And rather than speculating about that, I know there's a lot of things about the Mayan calendar that ends in 2012, and so 2012 is the end of the world. And in all reality, they probably just ran out of space to keep making the calendar, and so they stopped it then. And figured we'll let somebody else do that. But
I speculate if we don't take a commercial break, I speculate that we're going to have some problems with some advice.
We'll probably come to an end too, won't we? So.